I can say this on the air too. Our last episode of the year, just the two of us, because I think next week we have Michael Chan. Finally.
Sweet.
And then I'm assuming you don't want to record on Christmas Day.
Probably not.
Yeah, I think he's next week. Oh no, I wonder what. I guess he must have scheduled for January. We have Alex back on, so we can talk about View next week, and then
Sweet.
We can take the next couple weeks off recording because then it's also the 1st. So
cool.
We can come back on the 8th. And then I'm looking, when is Michael Chan? We have Alan. Have you met Alan? He's a Texas guy.
Who?
Alan Helton. He does a lot of live streaming. Super cool guy. I met him at the Postman conference in San Francisco. It was his Waymo account that we got to ride in the driverless car.
Sweet.
Okay, so Michael Chan is January 29th. So, oh goodness. Hold on just a second. Hello. That was a school. That's why I had to take it.
Uh-oh.
My daughter had a giant nosebleed. That's all.
Pretty common around this time of year, I feel like.
No, right? I know. Sorry. Thanks, everybody. Do we even have? We have 4 people in the chat. So this morning I was running late, and that's why part of the reason why we are late starting. And also Brad had equipment issues. And so Brad, you probably didn't know this, but I was singing the 12 Days of Christmas.
Yeah, it looked like you were doing something more than talking on the other end. I was like, man, I'm missing something good.
I was trying to help you out so that when your audio did click in, you would know. And I was like, what do I talk about?
Yeah, we were about to talk about new gear this episode too. And like everything is freaking out at me right now.
Of course. It's just one of those days. It's one of those days.
I have 2 laptops, and so I'm constantly switching between, and I feel like things are so slow to like pick back up. You have to like do a cycle on them or something.
Yep. This does not resolve that issue. I don't know if this is helpful or not, but I use maybe I should save this. I'll just tell you. I use an app called Shortery. It's short, ERY. And the nice thing about that is it has a few additional triggers than, say, just the typical Mac shortcuts app. So, for example, when I plug my CalDigit into my laptop, it recognizes that it's my CalDigit and it will automatically change my speakers to my JBL speakers that are on my desk, which is really nice because I was always having issues of like every time I plug in, I've got to go change the sound and the audio settings. So it'll do all that for you.
Yeah. That's cool.
I did have to write a very small Apple script. I just found one like in a GitHub gist and I modified it. But it told you how to figure out what the name is of the speaker that like Apple recognizes that as.
I wrote some Apple script recently at Stripe when I was doing like auto-filling checkout forms. So I wrote
cool.
like a Raycast extension that goes through and like autofills checkout forms with Stripe test cards. And the Apple script stuff, I just went to AI for, and it worked really, really well.
Oh, nice. Nice.
And like you're just spitting out a string and running it. And so I was just using template literals and sticking whatever
Right.
I need in there. It was pretty simple.
Yeah, I feel like Apple Script and like Automator and all that is far more powerful than what I give it credit for. I just haven't taken the time to do a deep dive on it.
Yeah, but like at the same time, normally when you're diving down to that level, I feel like you're doing something very declarative. Like I want to tell the system to do X,
Mhm.
and so you're just looking for like the one bit of
Yeah.
syntax you need to
Yeah.
get it done.
Or sometimes it's like, yes, this would be easier if it were automated, but this is a one-time thing. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. I'm gonna spend more time trying to automate it than it
Yeah,
would just to do it.
yeah,
All right. Well, let's go live and go from there.
yeah.
Okay, let me pull this up. Okay, perfect. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Compressed FM, a podcast all about web design and development with a little bit of zest. In today's episode, we are going all deep on 2024, our reflections, our goals for the new year, tech we've bought into over the past year, things that we're excited about, all the things.
Web development and design, who would have guessed? Well, we can do them both, even add a little zest. So turn up the volume, get ready for the best. Let's get it started in this episode of Compress.
Hello, my name is Amy Dutton. I am a lead maintainer on the Redwood JS core team.
Hey, y'all. My name is Brad Garapi. I'm a senior front-end developer at Stripe.
Awesome.
So you
Well,
mentioned goals. I feel like right around this time of year, I always do a recap of my like 2024 goals, and then I start writing the blog post for my next year's goals. And I'm behind
yes.
on that because I feel like I'm actually trying to wrap up like some things that I've been meaning to do all year and never got to.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a concept, I love this idea. It's a guy that, um, uh, he wrote a book called The 12-Week Year or something, but it's
Mm,
this idea of, like, when you have your annual goals, you put it off, like, all year, and then December ends up being crazy, and so he's like, "What if we just break the year into like, the year into 12 weeks?" And that's a lot more manageable, and you can plan for that a little bit better instead of just saying, like, "Here's 52 weeks. I'm just gonna focus on 12 chunks, 12-week chunks
oh,
at a
okay.
time."
12 chunks. I was like, what if
Not
you
12
just spent
chunks, but it would be what? 4 chunks.
Sure. What if you just spent like the first week of each month being like, I'm going to crush this, and then
Yes.
like took the rest of the month off, quote unquote, and then you're just telling yourself it's only for a week, and then like you can get through it. I feel like with more intensity and focus
Yeah.
rather than being like, I got all year to do this, or I got all month to do this.
Right, right. Um, so actually that is kind of what I'm doing this next year.
That is kind of what you're doing next year.
So, I sorry, Tanner is messaging me, "What time?" And I was
Oh
like,
no.
"Now."
Oh no.
Here, I'll just tell me we can reschedule. So for people in the chat, we were gonna have Tanner Lindsley on to talk about TanStack, but I never sent him a calendar invite, so he just messaged me and was like, "What time?" And I was like, "Now." So, anyways, we'll reschedule. That's coming up. Yeah, so the next year, I'm going to be working on a project called Build 12, and you can go to build12.com, like all spelled out, and I'm gonna be building something every single month. And I'm really excited about it. I know that it's gonna be quite a hustle, but I just do better in sprints. I don't know how you are, Brad, but I get this idea in my head and I obsess about it. And I've just got to figure it out and work through it. And I will be super productive for like 2 days and just like knock it out. And then like, I'm like, why can't I? Well, one, why can't I be this productive on everything? I know that's not sustainable, but I want that to actually be towards something bigger. So just finishing things, launching things. I have all these projects that I feel like I haven't launched. And so this project will help keep me accountable to make that happen.
Yeah, and so is this like your only goal for the year? I mean, I'm not sure how you could really put anything else on top of it.
Yeah, I have a few other goals that I want to do, like, but they're more personal goals. Like the last 2 years, I've read 52 books in a year, which
Audiobooks
is
count for that?
been yes, yes,
Yeah, sweet.
100% yes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it would be doable otherwise.
Yeah.
Um, but so I want to maintain that. But one of the things that that's taught me over the last few years is like if I have one thing that I focus on and I just say this is my do or die goal, that I'm going to knock this out, then I'm far more likely to accomplish that. It's the years that I've been like, I'm going to do all these things and this and this and this. And it's like, yeah, that sounds great, but it's hard to do that all at once. And if you read any books on habit forming, like Atomic Habits, or there's another one that's just, I think, called Habits, that's what they tell you. It's just to focus on one habit at a time instead of trying to do everything. Otherwise, you'll get burnt out. So build 12 is probably the one that I'm going to be like, this is my do or die goal. So even though I'm like, I want to read 52 books, I'm also like, if that doesn't happen, that's okay. This other thing is my do or die goal that has to happen.
Yeah, for sure. And the goal that you're focusing on also can't be too big. Like
Mm-hmm.
Build 12 is huge, don't get me wrong, but it's broken down into smaller things.
Right.
And you just have to be hyper focused on one at a time. And I would say do yourself a favor, don't move on to number 2 before you finish number 1, right?
That's
Like
a good call.
has to go out the door before you
Mhm.
start exploring that next idea.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Okay, I'm gonna look at my goals right here live, and we can talk about them. How about that? Here is my post. I always put it on my blog every year. What do we got? Always start out with marriage stuff. My wife and I just hit 10 years, so we're doing something.
Congratulations.
Actually, we had a really fun. I'll talk about our 10-year anniversary date. It was a good time. We went to a couple like really cool hidden cocktail bars in Austin. One of them is disguised as a floppy disk repair company, and you have to like
That's
enter
awesome.
a secret code to go into this building. It's pretty cool. Then we went to like a fancy restaurant, and then somebody gave us tickets while we were eating dinner to a show at ACL Moody Theater.
What?
And it was crazy. And so we just went to the show for like half of the set because we didn't love the band, but we were like, whatever, let's do it. It's fun.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, marriage going good. I think one of our goals was to like be more adventurous. And so we actually are taking a trip to New York City in the summertime to just the two of us to like go see a bunch of be tourists and stuff. And that's
Yeah.
not usually what we do. It's adventurous for us because normally we go to the beach and we
Mhm.
just like relax. But this trip is like, let's go make new memories together.
Yeah. We have a New York trip planned as
Oh
well.
yeah, where
But
city?
ours is with with kids.
Okay,
So a little bit different. For their spring break, we are going to DC and then taking the train up to New York.
that's sick.
And then we just took the kids to go see Wicked in the theater, and they absolutely loved it. So we've been playing Wicked music nonstop in our house. And so we got tickets to go see Wicked on Broadway. And we
Sweet.
also got tickets to go see Cursed Child, which I'm really excited about.
What's
That's
that?
the Harry Potter. It's like,
Oh,
if you just say Cursed Child, you're like, yeah, what is that? But I've heard the stagecraft is crazy because they do magic and stuff on stage. So that'll be really fun.
we're probably gonna see a Broadway show. We also kind of want to go to like a taping of like a Jimmy Fallon or
Mhm.
somebody like that. And then the Yankees are playing the Red Sox at
Nice.
Yankee Stadium, which is like you got to do that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have not been back to New York City since 2001. You can do the math on that, but I was there in November right after 9/11. So it'll
Wow.
be, I'm sure, a very different vibe, but
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Let's see. Fitness was another goal of mine this year. I ran my half marathon, so like big check there. It was a big goal. Career progression, I said I have to move up or move out at Atlassian, and I moved out to Stripe. Check there. It's going good. Finances, you helped me on this goal this
Oh,
year.
good.
Amy hooked me up with a financial advisor. That's been a lot of fun talking to her and reviewing everything. I feel like I have like a really good handle on what's going on there. Side income, I want to like slowly grow that. And so that number is getting bigger and bigger every year. which is really cool. So I feel like I checked that box. I totally failed at writing this year. I wrote pretty much nothing. Books, I read almost no books. I put that time into games, which I've done a lot of this year. And it's not something I feel bad about by any means, but
Yeah.
like I think it's cool that I can like still get through games and even enjoy some with my kids now too. I played
Yeah.
Luigi's Mansion 3 with my son, and that was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty good for my goals for 2024. I feel like 2025 is going to be like build something and put it out there. I'm like with you, like, and I think what's always stops me is that I'm kind of trying to set a foundation that's perfect before I start like stamping out new ideas. And I think I gotta just, in a sense, I feel like I have to stop that. But at the same time, I want to like have a tool set, a tool belt that like works really well. So like know my framework, know my CSS stuff, know where I'm hosting databases, know how I'm doing auth, and then you can just like churn out ideas. So I'm like
Yeah.
really actually furiously working on that part right now, and I'm making good progress. And so hopefully that momentum carries through really well into the early part of 2025.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit more about that. But first, I know you and I have both been talking a lot about like Mark Liu and Peter
Yeah.
Levels and just
Yeah.
the fact that they crank stuff out. And one of the things that they say that I know that I'm going to struggle with is just focusing on one thing in the app. Like, what is the core feature that
It's
makes up
one
this
feature.
app?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's certain things that I'm like, I know that I'm going to like not do that. And maybe we'll see how that goes because I'm good at scope creep. But there's certain things that like I know that I want to build even for me. So it's like even if this goes nowhere, even if nobody else is interested in, I'm going to use this and I'm going to benefit from it.
And I think that's why, like that's what I'm gonna do. My first app is a Super Bowl
Mhm.
Squares app. Me and my friends like to play it at any given football game, specifically for the Super Bowl, but really I want to open it up to any NFL game. And I think it's gonna start with like it's just a client rendered page, and you put in names and it randomizes them and it shows who wins. Like that's pretty much it.
Mhm.
But like ideally, this is kind of like an app where you like invite people to join your board, and then they have to like you kind of have to like hold spots for people on the board while the email invitation is getting sent. So it's not a
Mhm.
registered user, but like the spots held. So that'll be like an interesting challenge. But
Mhm.
like I think that's all just fluff. And I have to tell myself the core feature is you know, a 10 by 10 grid that
Mhm.
updates based on the score of a football game, you know, like easy enough, right? But then it's
Sure.
the whole invite system and management system there where it gets
Yeah.
complicated. But if you can prove out that first idea or
Right.
show that it works, and you can market that and then build from there.
Right. Right. And I think honestly, with this whole challenge, I think that's probably going to be the biggest part in area of growth is not the execution of that. We both execute on features all day, every day. It's going to be the marketing of it. It's going to be
Talk
the
about it.
pricing of it. Yeah. And just the business side of it, the administration side of it, the support side of it, and trying to get all those pieces locked in.
What's cool is that I think,
But
you know, not to plug my own company, but I'm pretty sure Stripe has like some usage-based billing stuff where you can be like, you know, manage X number of credits or whatever via the Stripe APIs. And you know, I guess for my app, it's like you can do 10 boards for, you know, whatever, $1 or
mhm.
something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like that'd be an interesting way to price that.
Yeah. Stripe also has features which I've not gone down this rabbit hole where I can say, like, I'm a merchant and I'm going to sell this as a service, and these other people can collect payment, and I'm going to
Yes.
get a percentage off of that. So,
Connected accounts. That's a
yeah.
huge part of our business. Like, I mean, we have companies, I think Uber is with us and DoorDash is with
Mhm.
us, and they're all that. They're like, you know, the funds go to a central thing, and then they pay out the people who are
Mhm.
connected users to that
Yeah.
like main account.
Yeah. So, very cool. Um, we had a comment in the chat. Have we
Oh,
experimented with VO and Bolt? Which I've experimented a little bit with VO. Here's the thing about stuff like that is I know that it allows you to move faster, and I am a designer first and a developer second. So VO actually probably slows me down more because I know exactly what I want, and trying to get it to give me what I want is difficult. And so we did an episode with Ray Deck, which is actually, I was not on this episode. I don't
What
think
was
you were
this? Ray
either.
Deck?
Yeah, I think it was Becca and James. Becca's friends with Ray, and I think I had something come up and wasn't able to be a part of it. But here, I'll share a link to this particular episode. But Ray kind of specializes in AI and leveraging it. And I edited this episode and I loved it. Because Ray kind of challenges you to say, what are the things that you're not good at, and leverage AI to do those things? Or where can it really be your co-pilot and help you? So for me, as I've been building out things, copy has always been the thing that I struggle with. I'm a much better editor than I am a writer.
Yep.
And so I feel like I've been able to just fly through things, whether that's creating email flows or funnels or whatever, just in going to like Claude. Actually, I've gotten better results than
Claude.
ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Yeah, going to Claude and being like, hey, I'm trying to do this thing. Will you help me? And it's been amazing. I'm like, this is the future. We've arrived. But I've found far more benefits in allowing it to help my weaknesses and not my strengths.
Yeah, I'm coming back around on AI stuff. At first it was interesting, and then I turned it all off, like especially in my editor, I turned off Copilot and all that stuff. After the latest GitHub Universe, and after having it on my work computer and not having it on my personal computer,
Mhm.
I'm going to start investing in programming tools in 2025, and Copilot is one that I'm going to get because I think that Copilot's future is the brightest out of any of these AI models at the end of the day, because it has so much more context on what you're working on than going off to ChatGPT or Claude will ever have. And so I think
Mhm.
in, far into the future, Copilot is going to be the way to go.
Yeah.
Just because of the context that it has.
So here's a good thing to note. If you contribute to open source, you can apply for a free license to Copilot.
I need to. It's
So
like I've got lots of open source libraries.
yes, yes.
I hope
So
they foot that bill.
I have a free license through the work that I do at Redwood.
Sick.
Um,
Oh,
yeah,
nice. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm adding a reminder to do that right now.
yeah. So that's pretty cool. I've been using Cursor more and more, and think Cursor uses Claude under the hood. And right now, I think like VS Code leans more into OpenAI. That was one of the things that they announced at GitHub Universe, was that you could now use Claude with VS
Sage
Code. But
models.
I do agree with you in the sense that, so I think Cursor is better right now. And I think
VS Code will get
VS
there. That's
Code,
the thing.
yes, their context, you're right, is far better.
Yeah, and then
So,
with Copilot being integrated in, like with Microsoft owning everything, you just know
mhm,
that VS Code plus Copilot is going to become the
yep,
best, even if they're lagging behind, faster moving earlier startups right now.
yep, yep. One thing I really do like about Cursor is their AI implementation. So when you put stuff in the chat and ask it to code things out, then it almost gives you like a diff of the code. So you can say, yes, accept this, don't accept this. So that's really been helpful too when it's doing multi-step things. And I'm like, I like the first function you wrote. I don't like the second function that you wrote. So
That's cool. I haven't seen the multi-step UI. I don't actually use Cursor at all.
yeah.
But I hear it's very good.
Yeah, so you can do the free plan. The only thing with the free plan is when you send stuff off to AI, they put you on a queue. And so
Mhm.
if you pay $20 a month, then you're like, you either just get it or you're increased in the queue. You really don't have to wait for it. So I am paying the $20 a month for it. I think the only thing that's a little disheartening for me is when I've been on an airplane, or say I've been in the carpool line trying to code and I don't have the normal
Tools.
like fiber internet that I'm used to. It's like, oh, I've forgotten how to code. This is so embarrassing.
I keep saying that it's like maybe I should only rely on like my own snippets, my own, starters and all these things, because when this gets pulled out from under you, how are you going to do? Like imagine the next interview you go into, like
Yeah.
what's going to happen? Um But at the same time, I do see a lot of speed benefits. I was like
Yeah,
writing something
huge
the other day
speed.
that was repetitive, and I could have just instantly had Copilot figure it out for me. And
Mhm.
no,
Yeah. Well, and I wonder, I guess that goes to like in interviews if they'll let you Google things because it's no, in my mind, it's like no different than
it's no
Googling. Like, yes,
different.
I can go to Stack Overflow. It's just a lot faster and it's right there. So,
Yeah.
one thing that, as we're talking about these projects and iterating quickly, one thing that I do want to figure out how to do well is to get feedback and to start tracking stuff. So, say I get like halfway through the year and project number 4 just starts taking off, I don't know, that'll be a problem, I guess, that I'll figure out when I get there. But do I keep going through build 12 or do I double down on, say, project number 4? But also trying to figure out what are those metrics for me that are going to help me determine what is working and what's not working.
I want to talk about that. I want to talk about how do you gauge success? Is it dollars earned? Is it number of visitors? Do you track conversion? And what kind of tools and processes do you use to measure all that?
Yeah, I'll probably mostly focus on money. At least once the project goes live, what is making the most money out of these projects? I know if I'm going to do, say, a landing page that I want to launch within the first couple days, just so like as I'm working on it, I can
Right.
collect email addresses throughout the month. Like
Right.
then I'm going to track like traffic and email signups. And then once the project is actually launched, it'll definitely be dollars.
Okay. And what are you using for email lists right now?
I have everything in ConvertKit.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like Convert. No, I switched over to Loops. I was
You
on
did?
ConvertKit and then I switched
Okay.
to Loops. Really simple, really easy. I like the
Yeah.
email builder, honestly. So
I have tons of funnels and tags in ConvertKit. One of the things about Arc, oh man, when we get into tools, I'm so disappointed that it's like kind of discontinued. But one of the features that they have is a boost, which actually I don't even know if it's technically secure. There were some bugs that they found in boosts. But one of the things the only thing that I do boosts for is on ConvertKit's page is making their side panel wider because I have so
Mm.
many tags and I'm like, why can't you just give me more space for my tags and my column width? But I have maximized that so that if I move, it's going to be very painful. I've even thought about, like, I hate how much money I pay to ConvertKit every month, but I've even thought about upgrading to their highest tier because they will tell you, like, these people are inactive and you can run more reports on them. So I can say, like, I could reach out to them individually and be like,
Mm.
"Oh, I know that if they're tagged with this, they're not responding to things or this is a dead segment." And then I feel like I could clean things up a little bit more, but I haven't gone down that path yet.
Well, now we're talking about tools.
Mhm.
I've been on a hunt lately for where to host databases for all these apps that I'm
Yes.
about to build. And I tried to compare a bunch, specifically focused on Postgres, because I know I I probably am going to use Prisma, maybe Drizzle, I don't know.
Mhm.
But when defining schemas and what data types SQLite versus Postgres can have, Postgres is just way more flexible.
Mhm.
I love like the speed of
Mhm.
SQLite, but then like distributing it is kind of a pain. And at the end of the day, I think Postgres is just like tried and true. We should use that. So I am, or I was looking at Neon, DigitalOcean, Prisma has a new hosted Postgres offering, Vercel's Neon Wrapper, and Supabase. So like a ton of different
Mhm.
options. And I'll start here and say that for a minute there, I was thinking that Vercel's Neon Wrapper was pretty good because it's the same price as Neon subscription. And I'm like, oh, cool. So you're going to get Neon subscription
Mm.
plus everything that Vercel has to offer. Not true. They
I
actually
tweeted about
like
that.
restrict, um, like they put more guardrails up around Neon when you purchase through Vercel. So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, well then just go get it directly from Neon.
Yeah,
Um,
I've heard they also mark it up like 3 times.
maybe the data stuff, but
Mm.
they restrict like the number of databases you can have and things like that.
Yeah, 'cause I
Um,
think, I have a $20 a month plan, which I think gives me 10 databases,
on
and
Neon.
then yeah, And
On
then
Vercel, I think it's like 1 or 2 or something.
for $20.
I think, yeah, I don't think it was a lot.
That is like a huge. And then if you jump up to their next tier, it's like $50, but you get like 80 databases.
Yeah. Yeah, and so
It's cheap.
it's cheap. I think it's good. I think it's a really
Yeah.
good deal. The only one that was cheaper was DigitalOcean.
Mhm.
DigitalOcean was $15 a month for a managed database, but no
Mhm.
free tier on DigitalOcean.
Yeah.
So I couldn't like try it out, see what I thought of the interface. I will say though, a little more money and Supabase comes in as a really nice option. $25
Mhm.
a month versus Neon's 20, but Supabase gives you everything, freaking users and
Supabase.
functions and all this stuff, and their UI is amazing, and you can even get like schema visualizers right out of
Yes.
their UI. It's really cool,
You
even
have to
if
be
you don't use
careful.
any of their backend as a service stuff.
You have to be careful with Supabase because it is $25. I do love, yes, all the things.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
love Supabase. It's $25 a month, and then it's like $10 per project. And then you also have compute time on top of it.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, get
So,
right
because
out.
this is how I know this is because I've been working on this project comparing frameworks.com. And so I've built the same app 6 different ways. And I was using Supabase to host my databases. And so anytime it's like shutting off my databases every 2 weeks because they're on the free tier. And I was like, well, I want to upgrade so I don't
Right.
have to constantly go in and reactivate them. And so when I do that, it ends up being like a $90 bill.
Wait, where does it say this?
It's like when I go to checkout, when I say I'm gonna upgrade and maybe it's because it's an organization, like you have it on an organization. When I say I'm gonna make this a pro organization, it's like, okay, send us $90. So
Dude.
what I've found is you can self-host Supabase. You don't have, I mean, that's the thing. It's open source. You can put it on DigitalOcean. The nice thing is if you are going to do that, if you are going to go that route, within DigitalOcean, they have a Supabase like droplet in the marketplace. So you can just say, yes, please, and use it that way. There's a few caveats in terms of setting up the server stuff. You have to set a domain, a dedicated domain to go to that instance. And some of that's just so you get the HTTPS. Like it'll configure all that for you, but it does need the dedicated URL. And then you also have to SSH in to be able to get the information for to be able to log into Supabase and get the credentials.
Makes
So it
sense.
does. The directions are good. They've gotten a lot better than when I first started.
Yeah.
And at that point, you end up paying $15 ish a month per project. So it is still more expensive than, say, Neon. The other thing that, man, I wish they had is when you are doing the hosted version of Supabase, they have a really nice projects switcher. So you can switch in between
Yeah.
projects. When you self-host it on DigitalOcean, it's only one project. There are people that have said that they've hacked Docker to be able to serve up multiple projects. I'm not really well versed with Docker to be able to do that. Maybe you could figure that out, Brad. But I've just been like, I'll just put up separate instances of it for right now. But the other nice thing about DigitalOcean is you are paying based on usage. So if you're just like, I want to see if I can get this set up in a couple days, and then you get fed up with it, you've probably only spent a couple dollars max, versus like if you're just going to pay all that up front.
How are you paying off usage? I thought DigitalOcean was like VPSs, like $5 a month for a VPS.
I think it's based on, it's based on usage because I don't know. I just use their droplets. I just click, yep, yes, please. That's what I want.
Yeah.
So I can go in and see exactly what the specifics are, but
Yeah, I go back and forth because I do think the ones that do like these things that do too much for you, let's say like hosted Supabase,
Mhm.
is like too much money, and I don't want to just like give away everything. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I could like pick the cheapest one-off thing like Neon, just give
Mhm.
me a database for a reasonable price, And then I go all the way to the other end of like, self-hosting on a DigitalOcean droplet, or like I just saw that article about some dude hosting things on a Raspberry Pi sitting on his desk, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's sick for like my personal website. Like that would be so
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah. But I mean, to your point, with Supabase, you're also getting authentication, you're getting storage. There's so many other features that they offer that are really nice.
I just don't
Um,
think I would use it though at the end of the day. Like thinking to myself in the future, I like changing frameworks and maybe I need to tell myself
mhm.
don't ever do this, right? You're trying to build products, not like change frameworks.
Get boring.
Um, but you can swap out layers if needed if you're not just like really built into Supabase. And I think that's the big problem. They've
Yeah.
gotten better about like separating their users table and you can export the Postgres
Yeah.
database and stuff, but if you're using their CLI for real-time stuff or whatnot, like you're baked in, man. You
Yeah.
know, it's hard
Oh,
to
yeah.
untangle from that.
Yeah. I just remember when we had Aaron Francis on, and he was like, the crazy thing about JavaScript is like you can just swap out stuff. And he's like, for any other application, if you're like, I think I'll change my entire database layer. He's like, that's
It's like, no.
crazy.
Yeah.
So he's like, just decide. This is it. This is what you're using.
Yeah. So all that to say, I'm leaning towards Neon. I think it's the cheapest option, the most straightforward. I'm only looking for a database. I'm going to do the rest myself, you know, and so that's what you got to do.
Yeah. I bet we could have somebody on from Neon because I've been to several conferences with what's the CEO. He was at not React Conf, Redwood Conf. He's good friends with Tom and David.
Sweet.
Yes. So comment in the chat, Convex. I'm so glad that you mentioned them. So Convex has been a Compressed FM sponsor in the past. We did have James Cowling on to talk about their services. So I just need to actually build something with them. I've heard fantastic things with them. Otherwise we wouldn't have used them as a sponsor, but I have not actually built something on Convex. James Quick may have had experience building on them because we try and be careful about who we partner with for sponsorships. So
I've heard about them. I'm very curious to see like what is their underlying database structure.
I think they're Postgres as well. And I also saw something recently. I'm trying to remember what it was that they're doing something really, I think they're doing something really interesting in the AI space. I think that's what it was. That
They got
other
vector stuff in
companies-
there, it says.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is like a backend as a service, and I'm not looking for something that thick. I'm looking for
Mhm.
just the piece that I care about because I keep telling myself like different applications will have different use cases, and I think if I can just have like a DigitalOcean droplet for long running WebSocket stuff if I need it, and a database, I should be fine. Unless unless you just pick one of these backends as a service, go all in on it, put all your projects on there, and like you might have a bigger bill that way, but you have one tool that you're working with and everything's in there, and then you probably can't hop off of it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that is interesting about Supabase because you can use something like Prisma just to integrate with the Postgres pieces, but you could also use their backend as a service and use all of their APIs.
Yep.
So yeah. Okay. There was something else I was gonna. Well, do you want to pivot?
Yeah, I'm down to pivot.
What other tech are you looking at? Talked about DigitalOcean.
Yeah. I looked at DigitalOcean. Oh, Prisma has a new hosted Postgres offering. It's free for now. You can tell it's definitely like beta-y because like they do have a UI to view the database, but it's essentially Prisma Studio just running in a little square in their UI. But it looks like it's going to do a lot of really cool stuff. Like it's going to integrate with Prisma Accelerate and Prisma Pulse, which are cool tools that help you like improve your query times. You're going to be able to log in, manage all your databases. It's going to do backups and restores and all that stuff that you expect. But it just seems like expensive. I think I'm not actually sure how pricing works because right now it's just like free on every tier. But like the Prisma's pricing model is 0 or 50 a month, and I'm like, well, if it's going to be 50 a month, then like you guys probably need a new tier in between there if somebody just wants to host a database with you. I'm assuming that'll change in the future.
Yeah. We can have Ryan Chinky on. Do you know him?
Yeah.
He was Prisma DevRel left, and then now he's gone back to Prisma. So he'd be
Oh,
a great
sweet.
one to have on the show. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was cool.
I also want to experiment with the
You should.
AstroDB. I
Oh
have a
yeah.
few like smaller Astro sites that it's like, well, if I'm just collecting, say, emails for a newsletter or just, want to gather small bits of information, their DB, I think, would be a good solution.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm going Neon though at the end of the day.
Oh, there's a comment in the chat. AstroDB is deprecated.
No
Okay, so check
way.
that one off the list.
I wonder what happened.
Hilarious. Cool. I was trying to think other tech stuff. I feel like I'm pretty solid in my stack. One thing I wanted to ask you, Brad, is what are you including in your stack? I know you talked about your starter. You're really big on these starter templates that just allow you to start a project faster and get up and
Yeah.
running, and like where everything is. It's all according to your preferences. When I was doing a lot of WordPress development, I feel like I have my own starter that I'm like, these are my plugins. I'm doing this for every single project. But what are some of the things that you're doing on the JavaScript side?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty chill. It's Remix. It's all built with Vite. Tailwind for styling. Right now I'm just rolling custom UI. Like no ShadCN or anything like that. And Prisma for the ORM. That's pretty much it.
Have
Although
you done anything with Auth?
Auth hand rolled. So me
Okay.
just, storing it in a database, and yeah. I
Yep.
really want to own that piece if it's going to be core to like my flows and things like that.
Yeah. I will say, so I had a video drop today. I haven't dropped a video in a while, but I dropped one on YouTube setting up Astro with WorkOS. And WorkOS has
Cool.
also been a sponsor of the show. And one of the things that I do love about WorkOS is that they will give you access to like your usernames and things like that. Whereas if you're using Supabase, a lot of that's locked down for security purposes, which I get, but WorkOS will reveal that to you if you need it, which I like being able to access those pieces. So WorkOS is a good option there.
I recently just went through a lot of my projects and updated them to React 19, Vite 6, and all of the latest Remix feature flags. Because the stack that I like right now is in a weird spot, right? Remix is converging with React. Yeah, they're actually doing a lot of work right now to like essentially line it up with React Router, and then they're going to be like, cool, uninstall Remix and install React Router. Like they're actually releasing packages that duplicate React Router functionality so that you can use it over in Remix, and then they'll just say, now just change it from, instead of at Remix run, the name of the package, just use the export from React Router type thing. So
Interesting.
It's I wanted to be kind of ready for that, Also they are now moving to configuration based routing instead of flat file routing. So I got no real opinions there. It's fine either way at the end of the day. But the React 19 upgrade was really easy. I mean, it had no effect on the app whatsoever. The Vite upgrade, however, I had problems in certain applications. And I say this every time. The entire unified markdown system is slow. It's slow to do stuff. And like Vite, here Vite comes and like nothing works right. And I don't know.
Just to circle back around really quick and close the loop, CD Viller did say that Astro Studio was deprecated. Astro DB is fine. So, yeah. So, I mean, I feel your pain with all the Vite stuff. We've been trying to work through a lot of that at Redwood and working with the environments that came out with version 6. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Terso is awesome. I just looking at another DB host option. Holy cow, for $8 a month, you can have 500 databases and every one can be 10 gigs.
Shoo. That's the stuff that Aaron Francis is working with his course.
Yeah, SQLite. SQLite
Mhm.
too, which is kind of cool. But then the question is, are they are there read replicas monthly embedded replica syncs 3 gigs? I don't know what that means. I'd have to
One of the
understand a
things
little bit more about that.
that I'm interested in, I'm pretty sure this might be what it's talking about with Terso, is that you can have an offline database running that will sync when you go live. And so I know that there are several people that have expressed interest in that if you have a slow internet connection or you're working offline. Um, I h- historically have thought, and this is so privileged and I hate this, but it's like, oh, I live in the United States. I always have an internet connection. But I was talking to one of my old coworkers or former coworkers, and the company that he's working with right now focuses on reading education within schools, and was just saying in general schools don't necessarily have the best Wi-Fi, or because there's so many kids it's very slow and unreliable. And so any of the tech solutions that they were looking at needed to have good offline support. So
Cool.
I think Terso is kind of trying to target some of that stuff.
That, and then based on what I'm reading as well, they're like, look, SQLite's a file. It's offline. Like it can be right in your app or next to your app.
Mhm.
We can run local AI. So they're saying like, you always have the context of whatever is in your SQLite database. Now you can make AI models that run local, and that's got a lot of advantages.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but that's it. My stack is really boring right now.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm already in my head, I'm already like, oh, in this Super Bowl Squares application, I'm probably gonna need like the user avatar in every square. So now I need blob storage. What's the best way
Mm.
to do that?
Mhm. Mhm. Yep.
That's okay.
Trying to
Do
connect
it.
all that
I'm gonna
stuff.
do it myself. I'm not gonna run to a service every step of the way.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked a lot about software. I'm gonna I did not run this by you. I'm gonna hijack the picks and plugs section, and let's make kind of our hardware recap, our picks and plugs.
Yep. Wait.
So some of these things that I'm going to talk about have been picks and plugs over the past year, but they're things that I bought that I'm actually using and I still really like. So, one of the things in June, I bought a Remarkable tablet. This is the second version because they came out with the third version like a month after I got it, but it's totally fine. I love this. I use this every day and I use it more than my iPad. So
Really?
I'm a huge fan. Yeah. I mean, I was writing, in moleskins and things like that. I'm also a journaler, so I've been journaling everything
Mm.
in the Remarkable, and I just like the fact that I'm not buying a bunch of notebooks. It's super thin. Um, so this has been really great. Highly recommend if you like paper, but don't
I'm
like
one of
paper.
those people who I find like the tablet form really pointless for my use case. I'm either on a computer or on my phone and nothing in between.
Mhm.
I just don't know how I would use an iPad at the end of the day.
I use my iPad a whole lot more when we're traveling. It's like when I'm traveling, I'm like, okay, this is why people have iPads. But I have thought that if I'm just at home, I'm mostly on my phone or on my computer. But if I'm on a plane or on the go,
Yep.
I'm on my iPad doing those things. And even just recently was trying to pare down so that when I'm traveling, I would love to leave my laptop at home, but
Yeah.
it's kind of my security blanket.
Yeah.
But one of the last trips that we went on, I was like, okay, I'm going to see if I can just do this on my iPad instead of just defaulting to my computer, to say like in the future, I'm just going to bring my iPad. I'm going to leave the laptop at home.
Well, I wonder. Okay, and this is what I'm getting at is like get the cheapest MacBook Air you can, the smallest one too.
Mhm.
Doesn't that blow an iPad completely out of the water, right? So then
That's a
why
good,
not just do that instead?
yeah, it's a good
Um,
question.
but then again, then you're bringing a laptop. Just, I mean, bring your 16-inch MacBook Pro. It is heavy, I get it, but yeah, if you're looking for something portable, the MacBook Airs are like beastly right now, and you get the benefits of like a full OS.
I was gonna say they're probably about the same weight because by the time I have my iPad and I tack on the Magic Keyboard, it's pretty heavy.
Oh,
And
keyboard too. Yeah,
yeah,
then I just don't understand the form factor. It's
yeah.
just a better way to watch movies
Well,
because it's like a
that's the
laptop
thing.
with the keyboard
Yes.
cut out.
Yeah, or I'm reading content.
Yeah,
Maybe
okay, yeah,
I might look at emails or things like that, but I am looking at different media than I am on my computer.
right.
I do have a
I'm more of a
Kindle.
Switch person, like, on an
Yeah.
airplane, so that's what I bring.
Yeah. So I do have a Kindle, which then it's like, okay, why are you having a Kindle and an iPad? I do like the dedicated device, which is kind of where the Remarkable stuff comes in. Cause it's like, yeah, you
Mhm.
could do all that stuff on your iPad, but there really is something different about writing on the Remarkable versus the iPad. The Kindle, I do love the dedicated piece of it because I will actually finish books and stay focused versus, oh, a
Yeah.
notification just came through. Let me go check Blue Sky or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think I could ever read on an iPad. When I do read, I read physical books here
Oh,
because,
really?
yeah, that I have to be focused. There's no way I could read otherwise.
Um, let's see. Other things that you can probably hear my dog.
Yeah.
Um, let me see if I can shut the door. Okay, the other thing that I bought recently tech-wise is my Aura Ring. So I've been wearing this. It does have a silicone cover on it, but I love getting all the biometrics for sleeping and activity. For me, it's been a good accountability check to make sure that I'm taking care of myself.
Yeah. Let's see. Most of my hardware has stayed the same. I do have, like, a work laptop, 4242 for the test card, but I got this same model, 16-inch MacBook Pro M3, for personal use, so that way I can just keep the 2 separate now, and I got this really cool dual laptop stand. See if I get it out without unplugging the video or the audio. Yeah, it's this dual laptop stand where they both go in
Nice.
it and sit up side by side. Really nice for switching in between them. Um, Also found the perfect mouse for me. I know it's a little gamery, but it's the form factor that I like. This is the Razer Basilisk V3 Pro. Super high DPI because I really like accuracy with the mice. And then really simple. There's not a ton of buttons. I really didn't like the Logitech ones, but I do like this big claw grip with this thick part here for your thumb.
Nice.
And
You didn't go
then
trackpad?
I actually have a trackpad and the Magic Keyboard back there. The one reason why I stopped using it was because when you switch computers, I'm constantly switching between the
Oh,
2 computers, it doesn't support dual device connection.
yeah.
So you have to, like, plug it in or forget
Yep.
it and re-add it. It's a pain in the ass. Um,
I
yeah,
just can't get over my gestures. Like, anytime I'm
they're
designing, I'm
so
always
good.
pinching and zooming or editing video, horizontal scroll. And I'll throw this little pick in. I downloaded an app the other day called Swish,
Swish.
which has multiple gestures on it. So, like, I can just go up to the dock and start pinching over apps, and they'll close the apps, which is pretty
Oh,
cool.
cool. That's awesome. I also got a wireless charger for this too because I was plugging it in here in the front.
Mm,
And it's really cool because, like, it's magnetic, so it just sits up like this, and it's, like, right here behind my keyboard. It's awesome. And then I've got another key light coming in sometime, and so
okay.
it's kinda dark on this side of my face here, so I'm gonna kinda get, like, a bit better of a backlight so that the room doesn't look so dark, but I kinda like it. It's vibey, but I get a lot of
Mhm.
shadows sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you get a new keyboard this year?
No, still on the same mechanical. I really love
Okay.
this, drop keyboard.
Oh, yeah, you don't have,
Pretty cool.
letters.
Actually, I put the ones with the letters back on
Oh,
in the
I
center.
see them. Oh, that's cool. It's like, gray on
They're
gray.
it's 2 different keycaps right now because the little notch for your index fingers was starting to wear
Uh-huh.
down, and I couldn't find the home row quick enough, so I got rid of those old ones and then
Oh,
I
funny.
got rid of the new ones and put the old ones back on.
Yeah. I think I've had this more than a year. I have the Newfie Air
Nice.
75. I'm a big fan of the keys. It's a low profile. I don't
Mhm.
like the big chunky where I feel like I'm having to work hard to type. And I do have a Magic Keyboard that I'll travel with just because it's nice and thin, but I found that I type faster with the clunkier keyboard than I do the Magic Keyboard.
Same. I get more feedback, and I
Mhm.
really like the big chunky keys because I can bang on them, and I really like get into typing. I think the
Um,
last thing that I'm gonna get, and it'll probably be a 2025 thing, I think I'm gonna get dual Apple Studio displays. Like,
you
when I
are?
feel like it's time to upgrade, uh, I'm just gonna pull the trigger and get 2 of them. They're so nice.
I have a Samsung ultra wide 49-inch that I got
Mhm.
4 or 5 years ago. I love it, and I also am not sure I would recommend it because if I don't plug in for a week, it'll, like, turn half the screen black, and then it'll take a minute for it to, like, warm up and for those lines to go away. So, um, anyways, it's like I'm gonna hang in there as long as I possibly can, but,
Yeah.
anyways, I did wanna pick out or point out a couple of cameras that I've bought recently,
Cool.
kinda crazy. I have the Insta360 ONE. This is an older version, but it lets you get 360 video, which is pretty cool. You can basically frame all your shots after the fact. So, when we're talking about build 12, I've been
Mm.
trying to figure out, okay, how can I document this in public? And so I've even been trying to figure out cameras and how do I talk about this in live and kind of do more of a documentary style versus the scripted stuff that I usually do. So I've been using that camera. I also have the this is another Insta360 brand camera, but it's the Go 3. The cool part about this particular camera is this little piece on the front will pop out. This is like the tiniest little camera, but you can put this in really unique places to get some interesting shots. The screen on the back will also flip up so you can monitor what shot you're getting with that camera.
Even while
So,
it's disconnected, you can
yeah,
monitor. Oh, that's
yeah.
awesome.
You can also check it on your phone. All this stuff connects with your phone.
Sweet.
And then I just got actually this came in the mail yesterday is this little clippy thing that it's a magnet on the back and so
Yep.
you can magnet stick here and then
Yep.
kind of flip this out and turn it however you want. So
That's awesome.
magnet that'll stick, but there's also a sticky thing. So if you're
Mhm.
somewhere that doesn't have is not metal, you can post it somewhere. And then this is kind of embarrassing. So these are all things I've gotten over the course of the year. It's not like I just bought this stuff yesterday. I did buy so I'm all in on Nikon, which I know is probably not the most popular camera, but it's just the system that I have for the lenses. But the reason that this is the ZFC, and the reason I got this one is for photography. Just wanting to get more into things that I enjoy and not just like creating content to create content. And this has all the dials on top. It feels really retro. So I've had fun taking pictures with this just for me. And we went, so my husband ran in the Memphis half marathon this
Sweet.
past weekend. And I took the camera with me, and there was a considerable difference between that camera and my phone. So that made me feel a little bit better about that purchase where I'm like, okay, these pictures do look a lot better. So
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
cool.
I think that's it. I
Uh,
think, the only other thing I'd call out for me is the PlayStation 5 that
Oh,
I
yeah.
won from Century, but I've been putting good use on that thing. Really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, you've played quite a few games. I guess you listed a few of them during the goals, but did the Zeldas.
I'm on Diablo
Um,
right now, playing
okay,
Helldivers with my brother-in-law.
that's
Yeah,
fun.
there's a lot of good stuff out.
That's fun. Fortnite just had a new release that my son has been all
Yeah.
consumed in. So, all right. Well, I think for now, that's all we got. Oh, actually, before I call it, is there any tech that you are excited about for 2025 that you have your eye on? While you're thinking, I'll just ramble. I'm excited about just the future advances of AI. The more that I've seen AI stuff, the more people are saying, like, this isn't going to replace your job. It's like a calculator. It just makes you work faster and enables you to do things. And so, as we were talking about this build 12 stuff, there are people that are also saying the next billion-dollar or million-dollar company is going to be like a solo person with an army of AI stuff helping them. And so one of the things that I'm excited about is as we're talking about build 12, how can I utilize those tools to enable me to work faster? So I think that piece is what I'm most excited about.
When you think about AI helping you with this stuff, you're not only talking about like AI powered code editors, be that Cursor or
Mhm.
VS Code with Copilot, you're also talking about just standalone chatbots like Claude or ChatGPT?
Yeah, so I'm talking. Yeah, so
Does
with
anything else come into the picture there? Like, is there a category that I'm missing besides those 2?
there's a few other AI stuff that I've looked at that I haven't gone deep on. Um, like Notion AI has one where it'll run different automations and things like that for you.
Mm,
There's one called Lex that I haven't looked too deeply into. I know Becca uses Hugging Face, but I go to their site and I'm like, I don't understand what this does. But there's just, I think, a lot more that I can even use Claude and ChatGPT to do that I haven't completely even leveraged. So, for example, even though my background is design, when I release the freaking full stack website, all the art or most of the art in that project is all AI generated from ChatGPT. It's using Dolly on the back end, and I found an image that I liked on Creative Market, and I looked at that and I thought, after I bought it, this is probably AI generated. And I went back and looked, and in the description it says this was created with AI. So then I sent it to AI and I said, okay, will you create another image like this in this style? And that's
yeah,
been the thing that I had trouble with
yeah,
when you're trying to create something cohesive is to get things in the right style. And
yeah,
Adobe's just released a bunch of tools that, like with their stock photography, you can say, hey, create something else in this style, create this in my library. I'm really interested in that stuff because, like I said, even though it's my background, being able to create assets that I can
yeah.
utilize and move faster is really cool. With the compressed podcast, I created a custom chat GPT bot. So I send it the transcript and I say, hey, here's the transcript, create all the assets that I need for this podcast. It's crazy how much faster I'm able to produce episodes with that. So also leveraging those within different processes and things. Like I said, Claude has been fantastic for creating marketing. One of the big things that I've unlocked with Claude is if I have a marketing page, to give it one task at a time. It's too much to go to Claude and say, hey, I need a landing page. Go ahead and generate all the copy for me. It's not, it's okay. It can do it. It's just not, maybe not exactly what you need. And so a better thing is just to go to Claude and say, hey, I'm trying to create a marketing page for this thing. Will you create an outline for me of all the elements that I need to include on the page? And then it creates an outline. And then you say, okay, let's start at the first one. Let's break this down. Give me headlines for this. And then you say, okay, give me subheadings. Give me like 3 different options for call to action buttons. And then as you walk through it, by the end of it, yeah, it takes a little bit more time because you're having to walk through it piece by piece, but it's so much better and so much stronger. And it's still faster working with that than something you do by yourself. So those are probably the main pieces that I'm using.
This is clear that I need to do more with this AI stuff, but I just see
Mhm.
everything as a dollar sign, you know, "Oh, you wanna
Mm,
try Claude, you wanna try ChatGPT." So when you're
yeah.
doing these assets, you mentioned it was OpenAI with Dolly on the back end. What, like, pricing plan are you using for this? Are you using it through OpenAI or
Yes. Yep.
ChatGPT.com
Yep.
or what?
Yeah. So with ChatGPT, I'm paying $20 a month.
Okay,
I'm not ready to turn it off yet. Just that the custom ChatGPT is good for what it is, but I'm getting so much better results right now through Claude that
sure.
I'm paying $20 a month for Claude. But even, for example, the compressed FM episode that went out today, I had ChatGPT generate all the titles and they were just like subpar. And then I went to Claude and I was like, oh, these are good. These are interesting. And so the thing with Claude is you can have projects where you can group things together. So I do have a compressed FM project, but it's not to the point, at least that I've seen, where I can just say, here's my episode, generate all the assets for me. So it's kind of like a balance there. It's like, yeah, I want the speed where it's just going to give me all the assets. But if it's not generating quality assets, it's kind of like, well, what's the point? At that point, you can just almost step through it and ask it, give me titles, give me show notes, give me chapter marks, give me social clips, things like that.
Right.
The
Yeah.
other thing that have used Claude for recently that I really like is you can also say, "Hey, this is a app idea that I'm thinking about. Go ahead and just do an analysis for me. What are some of the weaknesses or what are some of the strengths
Wow.
and it'll break all that stuff down for you. That's really interesting. It's been able to come up with some stuff that I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that. That's a great point. So, as you're just trying to figure out like what to build, it's
But you know
great
what they
to help you
really need
process
is
that.
like what if you could just talk to it? You know, like sure there's a chat box and yes, you can use text to speech to text or something, but like it needs to be a little bit more integrated where like the mic is hot and you're talking
Mm,
and it's coming back and then you're talking and you know
mm,
rather than like
mhm.
send text get something back, send text get something back, because
Yeah,
yeah, if you could just have a conversation about the thing that you want to build and go deep
yeah,
on it, and then maybe they need ways to like pull certain bits out to save for later, like
mm.
save this into a document called X and then this is like your layout design, or this is
Yeah,
right,
so
like categorize its output.
that's kind of what Claude has tried to do with projects. So you have,
Mm.
it creates artifacts for you that get included in the project. You can also send it, you can do this with OpenAI too. You can send it a bunch of documents and say, here's all my documents that I want you to use as context or reference for this project. And I've also seen where people have taken custom GPTs and you can throw a bunch of files at it and say, okay, now use these based on these files, like what's my company vision, what's our strategy for the new year. And so people, not that I'm using that, but you could create a bot just for your company to be able to, like, HR purposes for your handbook, let me just ask ChatGPT what I'm looking for instead of having to dig through all this documentation.
Man, that would be awesome. Oh, look, ChatGPT, when you go to pay for it, uses Stripe and it uses Link, my product.
That's awesome. That's
Sweet.
awesome. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think I'm not that I'm falling behind. I'm just not leveraging it a lot, mostly because there's dollar signs everywhere. And like
Yeah.
it's hard to expect, sure, when you're an individual solopreneur trying to build quickly, looking for validation and ideas and things like that, these are great tools. But
Mhm.
bringing it back to like we're all software developers working in the industry, I wonder if there's going to be this difference of like pay to win, quote unquote, where like
Hmm.
people are putting their own money into buying this stuff if their company isn't providing it for them and they're like performing better, working faster, because this this is kind of a game changer for developer productivity in a sense,
Mhm.
um, or even just writing your self assessments at the end of the year or anything.
Yeah.
And I feel like yeah, because there's a like monetary barrier in there, some folks will go for it, some folks won't, and I think maybe there might be like a slow separation, people who use it
Mhm.
and people who don't.
Yeah. What's interesting is when I was at Zeal, I had a junior on my team that this is before AI, even though this is only a few years ago, this is before AI. And they would complain about design stuff. They're like, the best designers that I've worked with or that I've seen have their own discretionary budget for buying premium assets. And that sets them up for success. And he was just making the comment of like, I struggle because I don't have a budget for that. I'm just getting started. What do I do for photography and iconography and typography, allographies? But he's like, I don't have that money. And here you are. Like, yeah,
Right,
of course you can go to Creative Market
right.
and buy all these assets. So it's kind of the same thing, but different.
Yeah,
It'd be
well,
interesting.
I need to jump on board more with this stuff. And like I
But
said, next year I do want to invest into a little bit more tooling
yeah.
to support, what I'll be working on.
And maybe that's one thing that I think about. I'm like, if I could just give it an idea and then it spits all these things out because I have those repetitive scripts written in the background where it'll just spit everything out. I don't know. We'll see. Interesting.
The ideal would be like, how people write generators for things?
Mhm.
Like even when I clone my starter applications, I have to like go through, rename a bunch of stuff,
Yeah.
tailor it to this. It's like, look, here's the link to the GitHub repo. Can you just like make me this app based on exactly that, rename it to this, and then like scaffold out these pages or whatnot, like we talked about earlier in the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be pretty cool. All right. Well, we can go ahead and call it. But thanks everybody for hanging out in the chat. That was fun. I like talking
Yeah, it was a
about the
good one.
future and some of the things we're working on. So if you are listening to this, please, or even I guess if you're watching, go to in your podcatcher of choice, please leave a rating and review. That just helps other people find the episode and helps leverage the podcast and helps us get sponsors and guests and all the things. But otherwise, in the meantime, that's all we got. Sorry if my dog was barking. I'm probably not supposed to say this on air, but Henry is out of town. And so my dog has gone crazy. Since the
We
alpha
always
dog isn't here.
we always laugh because our dog goes to my wife for pets and cuddles. She goes to me to bite and play.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is Peanut has gotten to the point where he won't even play with Henry just because it's like too much, like just alpha dog. And it's so
Oh,
sad because
geez.
Henry wants to play with him. But he'll like play with everybody else, and then Henry throws the toy and he just stops. Cool. Well,
Yeah, I got to do more with AI in the future. You're really making me think.
we could do another AI episode. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did have Chris Sev on, and he was talking. He's at SourceGraph talking about AI stuff. So it'd be fun to have him on and talk about some of the advancements that they're making. So SourceGraph creates Cody, which is a VS Code extension. It's a competitor to Copilot and Cursor and all the things. Cool. Well, thank you everybody in the chat. And next week we will be back on with Alex. Alex is fantastic with CSS and Vue. So I'm super excited to talk to him about Vue. One of my favorite conference talks was where he converted a React component to a Vue component. And you kind of see some of the similarities and the differences. So catch you next week.
See you, chat.